Ah, fuck, I lost it.
There's only one take. There's only one. You could have take two, but then you'd be stupid.
I really want to and I want you to take this in a non-platonic way if you could. I really just want to rub Icy Hot all over your balls.
Because then I would go, hey, hey, hey. And that's where we'd be done.
Thank you for busting out everyone's eardrums, and now no one's listening to this podcast anymore.
Thanks for joining us. This is the Beacon House podcast, I think.
Dick.
Hey, you rubbed it on my balls, not my dick.
Well,
Spencer is so upset right now.
I just see all the editing that's coming. It's gonna be.
Hey, you rubbed it on my boop, not my boop.
It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be. Guys, how are you doing today? The Beacon House podcast coming at you.
I'm one of your hosts, Hunter.
I'm Casey.
I'm Spence.
What if it was Ben Gay instead of Icy Hot?
Oh, he's been gay for a while.
Damn it. Shit. They don't mean that, Libby. You're lovely.
She's a great beard. Anyways,
Oh my God.
Guys, what's going on there? Like we're trying to make this episode kind of ambiguous because we don't know what this is going to be. One of our extra episodes, not meaning it's not important. We're glad to be here with you this week.
Well,
whatever week you hear this, we're just trying not to talk about time sensitive things because you may not hear this for a while in the future.
But we all collectively saw a movie very, very recently that we could discuss. Yeah.
What was that?
I think it was on Netflix. It's called The Ritual.
God, I hate him. I absolutely.
we don't have that episode. Do we still have that somewhere?
We might have that.
It's got to be somewhere.
Maybe,
in the drive.
maybe in this
you
hard
could
drive.
find that. That'd be amazing.
Oh my God!
I would love to hear the first, before we even.
I think that was our second recording ever, wasn't it? Or first?
Our second recording. We did Cloverfield Paradox, The Ritual,
in the same night.
in the same night. I don't think we ever put The Ritual out.
Did we put Cloverfield Paradox?
No.
I think we
We
No
didn't.
shit.
Those were two tester episodes that we
Yeah,
never put out.
which
If we
is
could
why.
find those, you could just drop them.
They might
Did we
actually not be.
Did we actually
terrible.
record those? We recorded those before episode 1, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those
Can
were
you
the test
imagine what those
episodes.
sound like?
My God.
It's got to be. Yeah, because we had no fucking idea what we were doing.
That was before Funny Beginnings.
Holy. And we did The Ritual and Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah.
Oh, and we never had either
No,
one of them?
no.
You know what? You know what I'm going to do?
You're going to fish them out.
Listen.
Oh, man.
I'm going to fucking drop The Ritual in this episode. This is going to be the episode where we discuss the movie The Ritual, which was, what is that, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Do you think you have it?
I'm
It's
sure
gotta
I've
be
got
in the
it. I'm sure I've got
computer
it.
somewhere. Yeah.
I'm sure I've got it.
It was in the Google Drive for a long
So,
time.
okay, so there we go. We've got it. So let's do this right now. Let's make a little bit of music to go. This is going to be a nostalgia episode. This is going to be an unreleased.
I don't think you understand what you guys are about to get into.
This
This is before we even knew.
We had no
we
fucking
were
idea
doing.
what we were doing.
Yeah.
Not that we do now, but
we have more
We
of an
wrote
idea.
notes. We wrote notes instead of just holding on to it.
Holy
We had little note
shit.
paper, like notebook paper with notes on them
Yeah,
about
and
the movie.
since through experience, we've learned it's better to just hold on to it.
and we reviewed the movie The Ritual, which
Yeah.
is it still okay? If people want to catch up,
Let me check.
is it still available?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm sure it is.
We're gonna-
It
we're
was a
gonna get
Netflix official.
Yeah, it was a Netflix exclusive
Okay,
thing.
we're going to get an official word. Can you watch The Ritual and then listen to this movie
Well,
review
let's just say
episode?
right now, since we kind of know a little bit more.
Yep, The Ritual is still there.
Still on Netflix?
And I
worth your
haven't
time.
watched it in a while. I might go back and watch
It's
it.
an
I guess I
awesome
can watch
movie.
it too.
It's
Okay,
so
okay. Well, I'll
awesome.
tell you
It's
what.
worth your time.
I'll tell you what. We're going to go ahead and amend this, and this is going to turn into
Oops.
The Ritual episode. I don't even know. I don't even remember what we talked about.
I don't either.
I remember I said-
I'm really upset if you don't find it though. 'cause
I am
it'll-
going to drop it in this fucking episode right here. So we will now sign off from 2020, and you're going to hear us from 2018.
2018 Beacon House.
Like the beginning of 2018.
talking about a movie that's
March of
largely
2018.
forgettable. I don't even remember.
No. It's
God.
awesome. It's
Okay,
awesome.
well, hold on. Wait a minute. When did? Because we did it like after the. Let me see.
We're
when
going to
The
find
Ritual
out
aired.
how it was here in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
I don't even remember how I felt about it. I remember very little.
Whoa, The Ritual came out in 2017.
Shit.
Jesus Christ.
So that means that
We're going to take you guys back to a friendlier time before viruses.
When the only thing to fear was Trump.
It's true. True.
I shouldn't have said that.
No,
I don't
you
mean
shouldn't
that the
have.
way. I don't mean that the way.
take
that
us
sounds.
away, Spence.
Damn it!
Do that. Do the dream sequence.
We're going to make our own dream music.
We're gonna take you to a dimension.
Yeah, do the Twilight Zone.
Welcome to the Beacon House podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Beacon House podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Spencer.
I'm Casey.
There's another guy. There's another guy here somewhere.
I'm Hunter.
Hey,
hey, look,
present.
thanks for
Sorry,
joining
guys.
us.
Yeah, put your phone down.
Yeah, numbnuts.
I'm looking up notes for the episode. Leave me alone.
Oh, okay, great, good.
Anyway,
I'm glad you came woefully prepared.
I'm doing my homework in class, guys.
we'll get back to the discussion when Hunter gets done organizing his Trapper Keeper. Guys, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about The Ritual. Really? Was I supposed to go on?
No, that's okay. Oh man, we're a little whack. Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit of backstory. What
Please
you guys
do.
don't know is we've been in this secret layer where we do the podcast here, and like it's not so secret because there's a bunch of fucking bands that practice in the other rooms on the other side of these walls, and usually at this time of day, this time of week, nobody's here, and we've been sitting here waiting for this fucking punk band to get done just melting our hair follicles for the last 2.5 hours. Like we were so fired up. So anyway,
It wouldn't have been as bad if they didn't start covering Green Day songs.
well, I mean,
Let's
just
not alienate the Green Day fans.
that's right.
Yeah, let's
That's right. For all the Green Day fans out there, I actually really enjoyed Dookie.
I support Green Day.
quit listening now.
Okay.
Get out.
So,
Intro ever.
yeah, this is pretty good. Pretty good.
But anyways, we're talking about The Ritual, directed by David Bruckner, written by Adam Neville, which was actually a book before it was a movie.
Can you
Did he
okay,
write, the guy that wrote the book wrote the movie?
He helped with the screenplay.
Cool.
give me the significance on that? What else have those guys done?
Well, Adam Neville, I didn't really follow up much on because it seemed like he just kind of wrote the one. David Bruckner is actually one of the directors from the VHS anthology movies.
Okay.
Following along with, Adam Wingard, Ty West, Tyler Gillette, Joe Swanberg.
You sure it's not Gillette?
It might be Gillette. It might be.
I'm just checking.
But all these guys, I mean, they're kind of up, especially Adam Wingard. He's very up and coming. He's done
Kong
things.
versus Godzilla on the way.
Yes. The Guest, the recent Blair Witch
Okay.
sequel-esque.
Okay.
My favorite, You're Next, which is a great home invasion style movie.
Great.
Super good. He did do Death Note, which I don't want to. I feel bad for the guy.
I haven't seen it.
It's bad.
We can just omit. It's fine. Don't mention Death Note.
But so The Ritual is kind of derivative from that school of horror movie making or whatever.
Correct. David Bruckner, I looked into it a little bit more. On VHS, he directed the short film called Amateur Night, which I don't know if you guys said you haven't really seen it.
That's supposed to be one of the big ones, right? Like
That's I believe the first one in the VHS, and it is awesome. It's great. I really enjoyed that one. It freaked me out.
Why did it freak you out?
Well, if you guys
Without getting into a different movie, like just
Yeah, but briefly, yeah, because again, I haven't seen
well,
it either.
you haven't seen it, so I really don't want to ruin anything.
Don't spoil
but
it,
it's
but-
well, I can't get into it without spoiling
Oh,
it.
great. That's what
it's
I like
one
to
of
hear.
those. It's kind of a rough one to get into, but apparently these girls. Basically, these guys go out to party. They meet a girl who's like very attracted to one of them. Bring her back to the place. Bad shit ensues, and it's freaky.
okay.
So
Sounds pretty cool.
David Bruckner. I mean, once I found out that he's the one that directed Amateur Night, I was like, I gotta watch this movie, and it did not disappoint.
Is
Okay.
that how you got in? You found out it was him?
No, I've watched The Ritual and then kind of did a little more research and found out that that's who did it, and I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And
Okay. Yeah, I just saw the Netflix banner thing happen.
I think I just contradicted myself. I really do think I just
Saved us the trouble.
Yeah, thanks.
What happened?
I think I said I knew it was him before watching it, and then I just said
Yeah,
that
no,
I
that's why
watched
I
it
was
and
asking.
found out it was him.
That's why I was asking. That Netflix banner deserves some credit because that shit was good.
This movie was very Blair Witchy.
Okay, so we need to. I don't want to. We'll go through this in the proper order in discussion fashion, but I want to just real quick touch on this. The first impressions, either from like the first. No, not even, but the first impressions from what the Netflix bit that plays, and maybe even the preview if that's what you were watching, because Libby and I saw that. Libby's my fiance, for listeners. We saw that, and it looked good, but we didn't finish the whole preview. We got to the halfway point, and then we kept scrolling past. And despite it looking good, there was this element of feeling like this could be one of those really interesting, low budget, just like psychological horror with your buddies in the mountains thing. And I was like, it looks like it's going to be one of the good ones, but it could suck ass too. Like, and then, you know, the thing that really keyed us in was that poster on Netflix, because again, the footage was good enough, and the weird, I think it showed antlers or something, and I was like, there's got to be something else going on here, so we tried it,
And there definitely is something
Damn.
else going on with this
Yeah.
movie.
So, first of all, I guess we need to do spoiler-free content, kind of like maybe the synopsis of it.
Is there any way to do that without spoiling things?
no,
I mean, you
spoiler,
can definitely-
spoiler episode.
I mean,
Dive
yeah,
right
you want
in.
to do spoilers, but do you want to start off, get people hooked, make them
Casey
go watch it,
wants
and
to
then come
have a
back?
secret.
No. Casey.
Casey's like, I'm going to
I don't want to poo-poo your idea on the actual episode,
tell you
but
guys a secret.
if you haven't seen the movie and you're interested in seeing the movie, pause this, watch it, and then come back and agree with everything we say.
You guys will. You guys never let me have anything. Anything.
Shit.
You read my diary.
Oh, man.
God.
All
We're
he,
saving that for the Valentine's Day episode.
all he ever wanted was a pony.
So, the movie starts off with a bunch of guys, like a bunch of old college friends, or maybe they're still in college. I'm not really sure how many years have passed from the beginning of the movie. Kind of something happens, and then it cuts away and goes straight to the
6 month gap. It's
Was
a
it?
tiny, tiny little text in the bottom corner of the
Really?
screen. Yeah,
I
you
completely
blink and you'll
miss
miss
it.
it. Blink and you'll miss it. 6 months.
Okay, so these guys go out, reunite, look like college friends. They go out for a night of drinking. They're trying to find out what they want to do for their next big trip. They bring up Cancun. They bring up, all this other sorts of crazy, normal
Belgium. Who was no one
Amsterdam.
goes to Belgium? Choice.
No wonder they didn't pick that.
And one of the guys, Robert, makes a suggestion of doing the King's Trail, which is like this super long, 270 miles, I believe.
It's like the European Appalachian Trail.
right.
Yeah.
They actually make a reference to the Appalachian Trail, which I
Oh.
thought was super neat.
You did.
Yeah. It was like, you don't see many movies with a bunch of like British actors, and it's
That's
very
true, that's
non-American,
Talking about
referencing.
Dollywood. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The punk band is why we're laughing.
That's yes. No, I get it.
Yeah.
And I will go ahead and say, like, I was thrown off at the beginning of this because they were European, and it like just European stuff seems so weird to me, and like just like their accents and their customs, but they're still out at a bar, and it's just hard for me to relate to. So I watch movies like that, and like I remember Hostel, or just like I'm always just like, whoa, what's it like over there? I've never been to Europe.
Oh, really?
Totally out of my element, but I'm trying to relate to this movie, and they're about to go partying, and aren't like a couple of guys ready to go home,
They're all getting ready to like get Ubers and go home.
and one guy's just like, no, he's like ready to rock.
You got Luke, who seems to be kind of the main character
Right.
from the trailer and things like that. He wants to keep partying, so he goes to head to a liquor store and says, who wants to go with me? And one other person wants to go, and it's
Yeah.
Robert.
Yeah,
They go in.
otherwise known as the victim.
Yes.
Yeah.
The victim and the guilt bait.
Not the first victim to follow their wild friend into a liquor store, I might add.
So they go in, start looking around. You see him joking around, and all of a sudden it gets to the serious note where they find the clerk down on the ground, beaten up. And at that point, the robbers come out.
They've wandered into a liquor store that's having the shit robbed out of it.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that, most times, even in like European British settings, the robber always has a gun. But this time they took that strict no gun policy into effect because this dude had a machete.
Shit.
And
Okay,
once that takes off, Luke, who I've now called nickname Chicken Shit, goes and hides and leaves Robert
Hey,
standing
now.
there.
We'll defend him later, but okay.
Casey's mad.
We will defend him later because he redeems himself. But in this instance where he just goes and hides
Yeah.
and leaves Robert hanging out, doesn't grab and pull him like, come on, dude, let's go.
That was
He's
the
just
part that messed with me.
He's like, we're on our own, dude. See ya. And of course, from my tone, you can guess that Robert gets the shit cut out of him.
See, that was the thing. I thought it was a machete too the first time, and then the second time, I couldn't tell if it was like a metal pipe or something instead because They never focused on it.
I had the same thing.
Really.
I had the same thing.
It doesn't ultimately matter. I was just curious if you knew for sure.
I was like, what is that guy holding? And then I was like, oh my God, it doesn't matter because he just like decimated that guy.
It was the second hit is why I questioned it, because he didn't cut the dude's head off. He killed him real quick, so that could have just been
Well, I thought with the
deep
first,
gash.
I guess I didn't see a machete, but from the first hit, the dude's face was sliced open.
See, a blunt object that's strong enough can do that
split your
at the
cheek.
right angle.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But would the second blow kill you like that and cause that much bleeding?
If it cracked his skull like their friends said it did, but that could have been hyperbolic, like venting in the moment too.
Well,
so.
I mean, we find out later that Dom is kind of a baby and over-exaggerates and is a little dramatic.
No,
so
yeah,
maybe,
so-
that could be it, because he's the one
Again,
that...
ultimately, the weapon doesn't matter, precious listeners. What matters is that Robert died.
Yes, Robert dies a horrible death, all while Luke is just standing in the next aisle hiding behind it.
Not gaining any favor from Casey.
No.
No.
Just staring at a bottle of vodka being like, should I use it or should I drink it? Oh, Robert died. I'll just drink
I
it.
was pumped when he shook it for a second, like he did the little weapon toss. I was like, go bash that thing over that dude's head, save
Yeah.
your friend, and then nothing.
I thought he was going to throw it at him.
He probably would have
Well,
hit
also,
Robert.
I will say, with the redeeming quality later on in the movie, you do notice that he wanted to do something brave but hesitated, and that overall is what caused the death of his friend, and for him to have this guilt for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that and this scene becomes this iconic thing. I don't know if I just didn't have a problem with it. It seemed to me like the guy was in shock and terrified, and not necessarily a coward, but just kind of like you never know how you would react in those situations. But the
Right.
guy just kind of goes to hide, and he's kind of hoping that his friend will follow him, but he doesn't, and he's all of a sudden he's hiding. All this terrible stuff is happening. I felt like the guy just kind of got caught between a rock and a hard place,
Right.
and then wasn't brave from that point. But regardless, he basically hid. His friend got all bashed up or sliced up or whatever, and that becomes a recurring image for the rest of the movie. And as soon as that happens, we jump 6 months into the future, and he's waking up in a tent.
When you put it like that, you make me feel really bad.
Somebody had to.
Falling right in the middle, I had both thoughts. So I saw a cowardice in the not grabbing your friend and just backing up immediately, because you should have grabbed him.
Sure.
But short of that, I was sitting there. It's frustrating because you're like, you can save your buddy right now. You can do something, and he didn't do anything. But it was so well written, so well acted, so well directed. This movie is great. That part was so well done. I was like, it's exactly what you said. That was trauma in the moment happening. That's not. He made a choice, and you also got to remember, as an audience, you're always the objective God view. No matter what point of view the film gives you, you're the one from the outside looking in. He was in a tough situation, and while we would have preferred that he act differently, they did not go in there ready to fight. He went in there ready to get some alcohol with his buddy and leave, and then just a shit situation.
That was really cool how you
him.
said that objective God view thing. I was really whoa.
Thanks.
I think me and Spencer both were just nodding. We're like, yeah.
Dang, dude. Hunter is woke.
One day we'll get cameras in here and we'll have actual evidence that they nodded. It's something I
Till
said.
then, you just have to take our word for it.
Fingers crossed. So 6 months later,
Moving
Spence,
on, yeah.
what do they do?
They wake up. They're on the camping trip, and they're up in the mountains, and they're going to pay homage to the guy that died at the burial. Is it the burial site, or is it just a monument?
No. I think they took the trip that he wanted to do.
They took the
in
trip he wanted
Sweden,
to.
And the idea was they found a spot they liked, right? Hutch did or whatever.
Yeah, and then they piled
built,
rocks to made a
Like a
memorial.
monument to
Yeah.
the guy, and they're remembering
Yeah.
him, and they all take out some liquor and they drink it, and there's a pack of cigarettes sitting on it or something.
Yeah.
Just various things, and they're all sad, and they're remembering their friend. And so they're kind of up on this plain. It's like the side of a mountain kind of a thing, and they're up there and they're doing it. It's real picturesque. That's another thing I think it's worth mentioning about this movie is the cinematography, and it was
gorgeous.
great.
It was so good that I literally in my notes made a separate thing labeled cinematography and then made notes about how awesome it was.
Casey's like, I made a shadow box over it.
I did. Don't take my secrets.
But
That's what he was holding back
Well,
on.
and it's cool to see something like shot on location. I mean, it was you just don't see that much anymore. It's cool. It's a cool scene, cool location. And then it starts raining.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we got to get out of here. And they go, and then things start going wrong kind of from there.
Well, did you cover the fact that they had to they had to detour through the forest because Dom twisted his ankle?
Tore his meniscus or
Yeah.
something. Because he's trying to walk it off, and he's like steps in a hole, or am I getting that right? I don't remember.
He slides into a hole.
Guy hurts his leg, and now they can't go the way they wanted to.
It was the awkward elevation, like when you miss a stair, is what it was. There wasn't a hole. It sloped down, and there were stones, and everybody's done that at some point.
Right.
Sure.
But it also, that's the moment that you notice, they all start making jokes about it to themselves
It's like
and away
me
from Dom.
every
And
time I
it's-
get off an escalator.
And it's very much like Dom's an overreactive baby.
Yeah.
That's what they say about me. I feel like that guy. Anyway, go on.
One thing I want to note, I know we're just doing the brief synopsis, but since we got to the memorial scene real quick, one of the beautiful things about this movie is it gives you all the balls out weird stuff that you want from a dope horror film, but it also gives you the quote unquote realness of like a smartly made film, but none of it's pretentious. And I think one of the best examples of that, one is the liquor store scene. But the pouring out of the flask in honor of Robert went on way too long.
I
It
noticed
was
that.
uncomfortable, but it wasn't played for laughs, and you could tell that they were uncomfortable. The characters, they're sitting there going, God, just empty already. But the gravity of the situation and the importance of finishing it for him made it so that they never commented and no one chuckled. But just that tiny little moment just stuck out to me like,
yes.
that's real life, but
Yeah.
you're not like waving it in our face. You're just, this is the thing and it's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I love that.
Can I also point out that I feel like it's a new trope for the first person to die in a movie to be the quote unquote red shirt of the movie is always has the navigation stuff. He had the map, he had the compass, he had no one else had a map, no one else had a compass. He was the only one with any kind of Hutch was the only one.
dude that died. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Phil. Because Phil didn't have any line. He was not
was the one that
important.
didn't do
He was in the
anything.
background. He was nobody. And
Okay.
Again, super points for unpredictability in this movie.
Yes.
Because it was not exactly, I can see what's going to play out. And it definitely does not work like that. This is not fucking what you think at all.
So,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just on that note. My favorite thing about the way that it marketed itself and the way that it plays out narratively is it starts and it goes one direction, and you're like watching it, and you're thinking you're going to go this way, and like you said, it doesn't. And then when it turns, it hints at something, and you go, "That would be super cool. Let's go that way." And then it deviates from it a little bit, and you go, okay, well, I guess that was like a bait and switch tease thing, but this is a really good avenue, cool. But then it circumnavigates back to like the other thing that it promised early on, and none of it's crammed in. It's not any kind of poorly made weirdness. It's none of it's fluff or anything. The whole thing is real lean and mean, but it goes everywhere that you want it to,
Right,
And you don't
right.
even know that you want it to until it says, "Hey, we could do this."
Totally.
With the runes, the runes that they find.
Yeah.
or the elk hung
That
in the
is
tree.
now that's
Oh,
the first.
Jesus.
Is that the first?
That's the first thing they come across.
The first
Yeah.
thing where you go, oh shit.
They turn into the woods about halfway through.
Because they have to decide.
Woods.
Well, they decide that to get out of the mountain or the fort, they've got to go through the woods. And somebody cautions against it, and they go, "There's no way he can climb or go back out the way we came in. We've got to go through these woods, and it'll actually be a shortcut." So they descend into the woods, and they're walking through the woods, and then they come upon this deer. I guess a deer or an elk or something.
deer and elk,
Some
hooves and antlers.
Yeah, something of that ilk.
Yeah. And it's up in a tree, and the thing has been suspended between two trees and completely flayed open right down the center. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was displayed.
Yeah.
It was very displayed. It
yeah.
wasn't.
And that was the first part in the movie, actually, where I was sort of just like, oh, fuck. Like, whoa, this is going to get crazy. Because up until then, I was like, well, they're walking around in the woods, and I don't know. Kind of like, I was it wasn't losing me, but I was sort of just like, where is this going?
Yeah.
And then I saw that, and I was like, whoa. Like my reptile brain reacted to that. It was kind of gross. It was awesome.
That's
Yeah.
called the id. We like the id.
Damn right.
But right after that,
It worked out just fine for me.
You know what?
Get out.
Get out.
Oh, you fucking guy. You. Shit. Anyway, go on.
So after they find the elk, that's when it starts raining and all sorts of shit starts turning sideways.
Because they have to get to shelter.
And they find a house.
Yeah, like a weird cabin.
They have tents on their back, but they need the house.
Yeah, it wasn't a house, Casey. It was a cabin. It was a witch's hut.
Yeah. And they also found rune. Well, I think they found the rune first. They saw one rune and then immediately looked over with the flashlight, saw the cabin.
Weren't the runes? That was a question I had. Were the runes carved in the trees before they got there or after? Because I thought I saw them outside.
I feel like they were before that.
It was
Yeah, and
before they
Libby and
got
I were
there.
like,
They
it might be a protective circle. No.
Well, they saw one rune, and they're like, oh, that looks ominous and creepy. And then they
Right.
found the house, and they're like, let's go in the house. It was the
Oh, yeah,
next
and then-
day after the collective nightmare, which, if you guys want to get into, we can.
We
It was
will in a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big chunk of it. The next day is when they realized, oh, this whole place is surrounded by runes carved into the trees. It wasn't just the one that we found.
Yeah, and so and I later, after I finished the movie, went back and watched the scene where they're in the cabin, but because I realized that's so significant. That's where the nightmare kind of begins. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, like what happens when they get in there and they're all going to spend the night or whatever, you know?
Yeah, so they get in the house. They start trying to find things they can break to make wood for the fire.
Yep.
They clearly realize that this place has been abandoned. There's cobwebs. It doesn't look like anybody's used it in a while. However, they dare Phil to make a joke. Oh, you're the closest to the stairs. Go upstairs and see what's up there. And when he goes up there, that's when he finds what I'm assuming is a totem. It's just this massive bundle of sticks holding two antlers in its hands, and then has what I assume are chicken feet, duck feet, or human feet. I don't know. It looked very web-like,
Well, and for
but
the-
also skeletal.
For all the listeners that are listening, and I hope it's a lot. I mean, it's not all you millions of people that are giving crap what we think about this movie.
Billions.
Billions.
Thanks for listening to, Mom.
But when Casey says like a totem made out of like a bundle of sticks, I mean, we're talking like a really elaborate like sculpture. It was super creepy looking, headless.
The size
Headless.
of a size of a
It was
child.
human
right?
size.
Yeah.
I mean, it was big, and it's in a room upstairs, and it's creepy as fuck, and it's like the hands are out on both sides, and it super looked creepy as hell, and it was displayed in the room as if it's sort of like a ritualistic. It's a point of worship, or it's like almost like an altar or something. This crazy totem statue thing they find.
Libby suggested, as opposed to feet, because I was thinking chicken feet too. I thought chicken feet. And it might be because it's so dark you can't tell. But she
Right.
thought, at the end of the movie, she thought maybe it's this human hands that are splayed out this way.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And they're
It could have
kind of
been
like
hands.
it's just arms that are stuffed in there, hanging upside down.
Okay.
And they're
that
left to
actually,
rot.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense because it definitely looked.
Well, think about. We saw the elk, right? And this will tie in a little bit. I don't know anything about Jotuns and the mythology, but I dabbled after seeing the movie. But this will tie in. We saw the elk and the face of the quote unquote creature, I guess. This thing was happening constantly, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which for people that
sorry, yes.
can't see us, Hunter was extending his arms out from his forehead, sort of.
Right.
And if you guys, whoever's seen the movie, you guys will know what we're talking about. There's a lot of hands extending out from the main villain in this movie, or the monster, or antagonist.
And you even start hearing the monster the moment they go into the house. Luke starts hearing it and is like,
Right.
"Do you guys not hear that?" And they're like, "No, get inside. It's just a storm."
Yeah.
But it's way more than a storm.
And so then they all they're like, whoa, that's creepy. Like, and they dare a guy to sleep in there with it or something. He's like, no, what are you, stupid? Is that right?
Yeah.
And then, so they all,
No way in hell.
no way in hell. They pick out their places they're going to go to sleep, and then they try to go to sleep. And then the nightmare occurs.
And this is where it ties into Blair Witch 3.
And I guess
the
we should
lights.
also state, I mean, people who've seen the movie know this, but multiple times throughout the movie, Luke relives the incident in the
Right.
liquor store.
Was
And
this was the first one?
This was the first one, I believe, because all the lightning flashes and it stays, which I thought was awesome.
right,
It
yeah.
was like lightning flash doesn't go away, and it wakes him up, and I'm like, are they about to get into aliens? Like, is this going to be an alien thing? Like, I'm going to be really upset.
And he like looks to his left, and instead of the cabin wall there, it's the scene from the liquor store,
right,
where his friend is laying there like dead, but he looks at him and he's like reliving that, and it's all crazy. That keeps recurring.
And what I thought was cool is they had that shot, going back to cinematography, they had that shot where he walks through the door to go outside, and he's back, in the liquor store again, and the whole ground is still the forest floor.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And that happens, very good. I dug that too.
And then he snaps out of it. He comes to freaking out like the rest of them. But he has that marking.
And he's outside.
He's outside with claw marks or like puncture wounds.
Yeah, almost as if somebody like a tiger or something had clawed a guy right in the chest, and he's got like 5 puncture wounds, and they're visibly not healing or scabbing or anything. It's just like holes in his chest, and he has no fucking idea how he got it,
So that's when he goes back inside, and we find it was Dom was like tossing and turning in his...
Hutch had pissed himself and was tossing and turning. Dom was on the other side of the room screaming for his wife.
Right. And Phil, as much as he seemed to not really have much to do, they're all important. They all matter. My heart broke for him more than it scared the shit out of me, and it did both big time when we found him.
I really thought Phil was going to die first. I really thought that.
Because they go upstairs and we find him naked. Right? Am I misremembering that part? I'm pretty sure he's naked.
He's completely naked, and he's like hunched
prostate
over
in front of the.
Yeah, and he's like got his hand out and like shaking it. It's very indicative of any kind of religious ceremony, regardless the religion itself. When the congregations gather, whatever.
He's definitely praising the totem. Yeah.
And then they wake him up, and he's freaked out. Like, this is not. But the irony of that was he was the one. The dare to sleep in there was to all of them, but he was the one that they pushed. To do so. That was another thing. Like, the house itself, and I think it has to do with the runic magic that's going on, and the obviously the supernatural elements at play. But their personal fears and choices were turned on their heads, all of them.
Right, like there was a theme of the results of your intent, and so if there was like an element of like bullying or you push somebody into a situation, that actually affects the outcome of. So yeah, there was kind of an undercurrent of like of just result and of consequence.
Yeah, the inversion of your actual identity. That's why the alpha of the group and the leader, who they would have probably actually been okay even after this stuff started if he didn't get taken right away. But he woke up having pissed himself. None of the rest of them did. Yeah. And then he's the first one to go.
The inversion of your identity. That's absolutely a theme. I didn't really think of it that way, but I think that's a really good observation.
I didn't until now. So
Anyway, they have a terrible night in the cabin, and then they move out of the cabin and
trying to like continue on the trip.
Yeah, moving along.
And what they want to do, Hutch says we need to keep moving southwest to get back. He wants to go, get out. He's like, continue southwest, we'll get out. But Dom finds a path, and of course thinks that's a great idea. Let's follow the man-made path. That'll lead us home, not to more witches or more witches' huts.
Which it does.
I want to point out one thing real quick. I think we kind of skipped over is that Phil knew that totem was witchcraft. You guys remember that? He sees, he's like, that's witchcraft.
Absolutely.
And he's like, he knows for sure that's witchcraft. How did he not know the hanging deer splayed open in the woods like that wasn't some sort of witch's warning?
Well, I feel like
that's a hunter.
Well, they thought there's somebody could an animal have done that? Obviously not. But I think at that point they're kind of still in denial. They're still going, maybe we're safe? Fuck, who knows?
Yeah. So they continue on, and at this point, it starts getting to them. They want to talk about it. Nobody else, I want to talk about it. No one else wants to talk about it. And they all have that same, you can tell they all have that same mindset that, everyone wants to talk about it, but no one wants to be the dude that brings it up first.
Right, because it's legit creepy. And again, they've still got this guy that's mostly injured, and they're trying to get out of the woods. They're trying to get out of the situation, and there's kind of a survivalist thing that kicks in now. And so they continue forward, and they're in the woods. And honestly, at this point, the details to me get a little foggy. I feel like they were in the woods for a long time. What do you guys remember?
They're in the woods, and Luke goes. That's when you first kind of see a glimpse of the monster. As he goes up, he sees sunlight. He goes up there, and it's just more of an opening.
He's like a lookout. He goes up to see, and he sees the fucking thing like go by.
Yeah, he goes up to the ridge that's not a ridge.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you see the hand on the tree, which I almost missed because it was super tiny thing. But you see that like there's a hand up on the tree, and it releases and goes back behind the tree. And he's like, "What?" And then you see something move off camera.
Yeah.
I never saw the hand, but
didn't see the hand?
But
I saw the hand.
I totally get it. I totally get it now.
Yeah, so it becomes a cat and mouse game, and a very, very good one. But ultimately, we get to...
and I think it's worth mentioning, the thing he sees, or rather doesn't see, but sees bits of it moving away between all these trees. There's so many trees you can't really tell what it is, but it's big.
Yeah, and they do a great job. Like in The Strangers, they do a great job of using the wide open spaces between trees as darkness and horror, and it does a great job of making you feel anxious. This movie does the same thing with the exact opposite. They use extremely dense forests and makes that a very ominous thing where something can move from tree to tree very easily without you seeing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
They find the tent. I forgot about that.
Before
we get to the
buried
death knife.
underground.
Oh, yeah.
And it came from 84. It was like lost.
Because they find the guy's wallet and his shoes and everything, and they're sort of like, well, maybe they left it behind. They go, really? He left his tent and his shoes and his wallet and everything, really?
Yeah.
And it's obvious that something preceding them, something that came before them, has met an ill fate in this very same area,
Right.
Now, Libby suggested that the missing out of that party wife/mother was the English-speaking person in the village at the end.
There's too much time.
Not
It may be one of the daughters. You got to think.
It could be either of them, but 84 to now is enough time, and they were also grimy. It's
30 years.
really hard to tell how old she really was because she looked young sometimes, and other times she looked like she could easily be like 45 or something.
That's true. I could see, honestly, I could see that as a theory.
Well, they also, once they find the people, once, you have Hutch dies the night after finding the tent. They have the tent flying up in the woods.
Yeah.
Very Blair Witch style. I
Very
don't know
much.
if Mr. Bruckner borrowed that from Mr. Wingard or
It's
not.
okay if you
but
did.
Yeah, it's fun. Do you have, I think that was more of a dream anyways. Like, he snaps out of it. Everyone's screaming. Hutch is gone.
Yeah.
They finally find him. They've left their stuff at this point. When they go to find Hutch, they leave their tent. They leave everything.
Yeah.
And then they lose it. Like, they can't find it again. And so at this point, they find Hutch. He's dead. And does Phil die before they find the... Yeah.
Yeah, because it's Dom and Luke at the end.
That's right. So...
I want to get to the village at the end. I don't mean to skip over the cat and mouse part in the middle.
Once again, Phil's death, not very important. Just kind of like the character himself.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about that later.
He was only there to be the guy that knows what witchcraft looks like.
And how important did that turn out to be for the rest of the guys?
Ooh, suck it.
Now, but the reason I want to get to the village is not... It's the part where everything comes to a head for sure, but it's not that. I really feel like where the movie takes all of its big ideas and just puts them on full display. But it's also not a message movie. It's a movie that has things that it wants to say, but nowhere in there is there actually a message. I think beyond like learning to defend yourself and everything, which is like the main through line, but the other messages is what I'm talking about. Because in that, there's that weird groaning sound that we kept hearing, and I'm assuming maybe you guys can talk about it, but I was thinking it was the villagers like worshiping and doing some kind of like zombied out drone, and it seems to be coming from upstairs. after Luke escapes, and I'm skipping a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're... Yeah.
But he gets to the room and opens it, and I don't think I've ever been as horrified by something I've seen in a film before, ever. Tons of bodies that are still alive but shouldn't be.
Very corpse-like bodies.
Because I think their natural physical state is deteriorating. But, like, one of them actually looked Civil War era.
Yeah, it was like a high school prom for the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. It really was, and they looked like someone. They looked like people that had been kept alive through unnatural means, but were dissolving, degrading in a very slower than normal fashion.
Yeah, it basically looked like not half decomposed, but extremely mummified. Like, I don't want to say ancient, but very, very old corpses that were still animated by whatever this runic magic that's going on in this forest and this creature and this village and these people that worship it, and they start to learn all these things, and it's somehow keeping these things alive.
But it's that specific horror actually speaks to an idea on immortality, which they touched on as part of their faith, these people, because they do the weird sacrifice or whatever to the creature, and in turn, they get to have a life without pain and without death, is what they say.
They tell the guy, you will never die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good commentary on what that stuff can look like, too, especially when it's perverted as it is here, because they're not wrong, we come to find out. But
Who would want
think
that?
Yeah, that's
Right.
not what you really want out of not dying.
And there goes back to that theme of consequence. Mm-hmm. You know, like you could be immortal basically, but what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really good point too. I don't know that I picked up on as much thematic stuff. I think I was just kind of watching it the way I would watch Star Wars or
Right.
fucking whatever, Wedding Crashers.
One thing I want to know from Casey is you pointed to yourself with like all 5 fingers. Was you have a thing
I believe
with
the
punctures?
marking had something to do with the immortality. I think if Luke were to
Agreed.
stay there and bow and worshipped, he would have been alive forever.
Yeah.
That the creature chose him for that, and I don't know why it's being selective. I could never figure out why.
I think it chooses
weak
people that have some kind of survival strength in them, because in doing that, they will serve it, and it will gain all of its power that it gets from its followers. And whenever they need to be discarded, they go to the attic with all the zombies.
Rather than escape, yeah, because you see that at the
Yeah.
end, it's actually possible. But yeah, I agree. I think it preys upon people that are damaged in some sort of way that would keep them available to it for a long time. And for anybody, again, if you guys didn't pause the podcast and go look at, watch the movie, the main creature we're talking about is the thing that they've been hearing and seeing in the woods this whole time. They come upon this village, and there's all these people in the village that basically, they kind of take them hostage, but then not really. They kind of have a choice, and we don't know. And they wake up in this house, and they're telling them, you're going to live forever, and just you're going to worship it. And then they kind of just explain what it is.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about that? Because I know you went and did a little research on it too, right?
A little bit. So apparently it's a play on the idea of a Jotun from Nordic mythology. And this is not a god. What I read said it was a contrast to a god. So not even really a demon either, but keeping on with the idea of inversion of expectations, the inversion of your identity, the inversion of what immortality actually is, all that stuff. And again, inversion, not opposite. You take it and it's still there, but it's turned upside down.
Right.
So it's this creature that in the actual mythology, I believe, is akin to a giant, but doesn't necessarily have to be giant-sized. And they are able to shapeshift. Loki from the Marvel movies and comics is one. You find them all throughout different pop culture lore. I know Casey had a more specific idea of what kind it was, so if you want to talk on that.
Well, I know that the lady in the basement, when she approaches Luke, even says that the creature is a product of Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she calls it
does.
a bastard child of Loki.
Bastard offspring or something.
And discarded, so that's why it's so malicious. It's it's evil. I honestly thought, watching the entire time I was watching it, I was like, this reminds me of a Spriggan. which is like the spirit of a giant. It's very malicious. It's very chaotic. It loves playing tricks on hikers, shape-shifting the woods to get them lost on purpose. So that's what I thought, and then she went to explaining it, and I was like, damn, well, close enough.
Yeah.
Well, and again, if whoever's not seen it, the thing we're kind of avoiding, the thing we're sort of dancing around this whole time is the actual appearance of the fucking thing. And that may be one of the most difficult things to describe. We keep talking about, why did it do this? Is it a god? Was it a demigod? Is it what was its origin? But it was so crazy looking.
To me, it looked like it's a moose. It's like a very zombified, skeletal, corpse-like moose, very thin body. But its head was two upper human halves attached. One was holding antlers, and the other one was used as mandibles.
Yep.
And would like pick things up. And in the middle was a darkened cloak, like hung over
a face,
and it was an Ewok.
It was
golden eyes.
A Jawa.
No, it was a Jawa. It was a Jawa.
No.
You have killed every Star Wars fan we could have gotten.
All right, guys. I'm going to get out. I'm just going to go. I'll
get out.
Now, one thing we do need
Anybody
to address.
listening to this that didn't see it must be going, what the fuck are they describing?
So, we're describing, in the words of HUD from Cloverfield, a terrible thing. So, just watch the movie.
Your turn.
It defies description.
Or see our podcast on the Cloverfield Paradox coming to a theater near you. So,
I do want to hear what Spencer had to say, though, because I got the impression that Casey, and I don't know if you disliked it either, but Casey and I kind of dug the monster design a lot, and we talked about it briefly. We never talk about this stuff before we do the episodes, and Spencer was coy.
I wanted...
No pun intended.
I just want to know...
I'm sorry.
I just want to know Spencer's
fuck
final
you.
thoughts.
Tell him to get out. Howard, did you hear that? Do you need me to stop and play this back? Tell him.
It was really an accident.
Hunter, you can stay. I like the puns. Who doesn't like God? Puns are great.
I'm not going to tell you anything. I didn't even see the monster. I don't know. Whatever. No.
He didn't watch the movie. He Googled it.
This entire time he's just been playing it coy.
I thought that the design of the monster and the mechanics of it, easily the most exciting part of the whole movie.
Agreed.
I enjoyed it. I wanted to see it sooner, but I do like when they make you wait and then they finally show it. I'm glad that it actually turned out to be something crazy looking and you got to see it a little bit. I hate movies that sort of tease you the whole way. Like, we're going to show you the monster, but then they don't. And then, the credits roll and you go, what the fuck was it? I liked it. I liked the monster a lot. I didn't have any problems with design. It was weird, and it took me a minute. Wait, what the fuck is that? And then you see it, and you see it again, and you're, what?
I've just remembered. I told you guys I had a funny story. Probably won't be as funny now. About the monster from the movie. I think like 4 days before I saw it, I was playing some kind of Dungeons and Dragons,
like Big Buck Hunter, and you're like, oh shit.
No, it was some kind of Dungeons and Dragons offshoot that's set in a Supernatural from the CW, that show, set in that universe, and we were fighting what is it called, a Wendigo. And I'm a big fan of those. Sure. I think they're really cool looking in all their different forms. So in the excitement of finding out that's what it was, I go to Google and find some stuff, go to Pinterest, find some stuff, go to Tumblr. Tumblr, I searched Wendigo, and the first thing that showed up was this monster, but I somehow blocked out that it was from the movie The Ritual. So that scene where the hands come down and it creeps into the house to look at him,
Yeah.
which is when you get your first really good look at it, that happened in the middle of the movie, and all of a sudden I was like, shit, I've seen this. Just a couple days ago. And Libby's like, what? And I was like, yeah, that Supernatural game. I saw this.
Let's kind of move through the rest of the synopsis, and then we'll get to impressions.
So at the very end, Luke grows a pair, attacks this creature, and gets away.
And not only that, but he goes upstairs to the animated, dead, somehow immortal, but really gross things, and fucking burns them down.
Ripley from Alien Resurrection.
Sets him the fuck on fire.
He does what Dom asked him to. Burn this fucking place down.
Oh, that's true. He does.
True.
Yeah.
I didn't think
He
about it
does.
like that.
Even though he hated Dom, he kept his word.
Yeah, he really like that barn and that village and that group of the Thing's followers. Like he really gets in their ass.
Dom really fucks up, and then Luke says, "You are not my friend anymore. We are not friends." Means it because of what Dom said in that scene. In the barn, Dom's freaking out. Luke comes over and says, "I'm not going to leave you." I love that stuff in storytelling too.
Totally.
Like that's a whole nother facet of what was wrong with him and his cowardice. You know, he emotionally finally stood up and fought, and that counts.
Yeah.
And then at the end, as you were saying, to close out the movie, he whoops some monster ass, and it's not dumb either. Like, but he really does. And then I love the screaming, like how they cut at the end. Like he exits the forest, realizes the monster won't leave the forest. I guess it's tied to it somehow or whatever.
And I kind of got like the theme that once he realized that there's a point where he's like fighting the monster, and which seems weird because the thing's gigantic, but he had a gun and it was chasing him through the forest, and this is a really exciting part of the movie for me. I was like, wow, this is it. This is easily the climax, and the thing kind of catches him, but instead of attacking him, it keeps trying to push his head down as if it needs to be worshipped in order to be real, in order to be powerful. It needs him to succumb to it, and he won't do it. And I think as he exits the forest, he realizes, if I don't give in to this thing, then it's powerless against me. And he sort of like turns around and like, gives it the finger.
And that's another part of the theme of overcoming fear, which was a big thing in what happened with him in the liquor store, because in that moment, it actually plays back what the woman that could speak English as well said to him and flips that on its head, because she said, if you bow down, you can live forever. If you don't, it'll kill you. So there was the threat of death, which was justified by the death of all of his friends, which we can assume happened to all the other people that have been brought into the village,
right,
the same way that they were trying to bring him in. And you would imagine even the ones that did like look up or whatever, maybe, got pushed back down again like he did. And then at that point, they obeyed. Now, it did kill one that looked up earlier, but that was somebody that was in the village for a while. So maybe after you're indoctrinated, you don't have an excuse. But in this moment, he still didn't own Luke. He had him close, but he didn't own him. So he's, I think, twice put his head down, like, stay down.
Yeah.
And Luke finally got up and hit it and was like, you know what? No, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And left.
I thought that scene of him screaming, for me, was very symbolic of, I'm going to take control of my grief, my guilt, and my life, and I'm not going to let, Robert's death, I'm not going to keep blaming myself. I'm going to move on. And him screaming was almost just like a release. Like he's just letting go. He's not going to let that thing control him. He's not going to let anything. He's going to take control of his life again.
Mm-hmm. Sort of, there's a big overarching theme about overcoming fear and like I agree. Like the consequences of doing the easy thing versus the outcome of overcoming fear. That's kind of an overarching theme. But it's also a really cool movie of a guy being chased through the woods with this weird cult and this demonic fucking monster elk moose thing that's after him that has arms for a face.
I was absolutely terrified about the same thing that you thought, which was that they were never going to show the monster.
Yeah.
Like so many times it would like zoom in on the forest really slow, and then you'd see something go and like fucking wood transformer and book it. Like you'd see wood misshape and then take off, and you're like, I was like, if it does not show me what this thing looks like, I'm going to lose it. Yeah,
this thing fires on all cylinders. It fires on a dramatic level, a subtlety in structure, and excellence in storytelling level. It fires on a pulpy, you want a scary movie level. Fires on, you like cult movies, so here you go. You want a monster? Here you go. And that's what I was saying at the beginning. It mixes all of that, and it has such a perfect reason to do so. It was so smart in how it did that.
Hey, okay, totally. I'll give you some of my impressions about the movie. These are just reactions that I noted right after I saw it. Great opening death scene in the liquor store.
Oh, yeah.
When he's looking his friend in the eye, and it's like this eye-to-eye. The guy's dying, and they make eye contact. It was really, really jarring. And I was like, that's awesome. It totally worked. One thing I thought about this movie that was cool, they had good use of humor without making it campy. And another movie that we reviewed, there was a campy scene in it that I thought kind of ruined the movie. In this movie, all the comedic relief comes from just the way the guys talk to each other as they're making their way through the forest, and they're just talking about guys, they're having guy talk.
Yeah.
And it's real entertaining and enlightening. It kind of brings a realism to the movie. To me, didn't cheapen the movie at all. It didn't make it hokey. It wasn't lame. It was just actually what guys would sound like walking through the forest, just talking about shit. And that was a good, it was so good that I noticed it. Didn't ruin the movie at all. The first thing you see, the gutted elk or the deer up in the tree, super rad. And imagery was good, and I was still feeling that this movie was going to shock me, and I didn't know what else was going to happen, but I was 100% on board. After that, I felt like it drug a little bit. And I know there's a lot going on thematically. I just feel like there was so many scenes of like guys just walking in between trees. And maybe that's me being impatient. Maybe I was tired when I watched. I don't know. I just thought the same setting of just being like in this forest got a little old. Definitely the human interaction between the guys carried the movie 100%. And there was occasional pit stop in the cabin with the totem and, all the other parts when they get after it and they get to the village. So there were checkpoints along the way, but it was the interaction between the guys, it was 100% what made this movie watchable. I just thought my only criticism of the movie was it seemed to drag a little bit at times, even after they had presented the monster. Like there's something out there in the woods, but yet they're still just walking around and camping. And I was like, no. The minute I saw that thing go by, I would have been like, fucking run. And the shit would have hit the fan, But I thought the movie could have been shorter. It could have been maybe a third shorter and still accomplished everything that it accomplished. So I thought at some points it drug a little bit. Other than that, I liked it way better than the Cloverfield Paradox, for sure. And I thought it was pretty legit. I thought the monster was rad, and a lot of this thematic stuff, which actually talking to you guys, I realized that there's a lot of thematic stuff that I didn't really catch. I was just sort of like sleeping bags and dudes and rain and monsters in a village and whoa, old thing, fire. Casey?
I liked it. I
thought you were going to stop there. I was about to throw this computer at you.
I really liked it. I didn't love it. I thought the ending was a little too hooray.
When he's standing there laughing and stuff.
Oh no, just like he's screaming and he turns around and he walks off. Mm-hmm. I feel like the screaming, that's where it should have ended.
Okay.
But the fact that it went on for another 2 minutes of him just like hoofing it, and you see a car going down a road and you're like, oh, he's going to get to that car. I thought something else was about to happen, and I was like, oh man, I hope like he goes to get in the car and this thing is like, forget this whole like wood boundary and just like comes running through the field and gets him.
Yeah.
But no, instead it's just 2 minutes of him walking again, just dragging it out with walking in rain, and then it cuts, and I was like, all right, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
I did like that in most horror movies, whenever they exit the house and then go and find another house, they always assume that, hey, maybe this house isn't as bad. And this time they see that other house and they go, nope, and they literally go the other way. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I was like,
yeah.
Perfect. They knew right away, that's another witch's hut. I'm not going in there.
Fuck houses in this forest.
But what I do find weird, Hutch had all the nav system stuff. He had the map and the compass. And at one point, he's like, we should continue southwest. And Dom goes, no, we're following the path. And everyone goes, okay, let's listen to overdramatic crybaby Dom and go down this path the opposite direction of where Hutch, the guy with the map, is telling us to go.
Yes.
And it's... Why? Why know not to go into the other house and then not listen to the guy who has all the equipment to get you out?
Yeah. One thing I like is how they didn't kill the monster. Like, he just got away from it. It still very much existed in that forest with probably get a whole new set of followers and everything like that. Do you think it can be killed? Was it killable? Was it more of like a demon or a god?
It seemed to actually be physically wounded when he struck it. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's not a...
But it was a much more complicated creature than you thought. It had a lot to do with your...
I think the worship gives it strength, not life.
Yeah.
As a special ops major, Dutch Schaffer said in 1987, if it bleeds, we can kill it. So...
I was like, where is he?
There's so many get out moments.
No, I wanted to address what you said because I thought about that at first, the thing with like, we'll go southwest. No, we'll just listen to Dom to make him shut up. That is another part, mainly of Luke's journey, but all of his friends share their own versions of the journey. That is the war with complacency that all of them were fighting from the get-go in the pub because they couldn't make a decision together. The war of complacency that they lose all the time and the consequences therein. They should have gone southwest because they knew that's where to go. And because they just didn't want to hear him bitch and moan, they all died.
Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts? What do you think?
I loved it. Monster, thank you. Big Monster, even more thank you.
The monster was fantastic.
But I thought the movie was structured very smartly. It was written well, directed well. We've touched on all that. The thing that really brought it home for me, though, is actually the ending. And my reason is I watch a whole lot of independent horror movies and just film in general as well, because that is where you get the meatiest stories most times. And my concern with the film was I wouldn't have hated it or even disliked it, really. But this was the icing on the cake that pushed it over for me. I was sitting there going, he's going to die, and we're going to have a really great movie. But, it's okay because he learned to fight at the end. But then he actually got away. And the fact that we had an independent, low-budget monster movie that delivered on the monster, had a message on overcoming fear and trauma, delivered on the message without browbeating you, and then gave you at least one character who won't have a happy ending because you'd never recover from what he went through, but who is able to live, who overcomes the physical and emotional and mental dangers he was facing in that moment, you never get anymore. The cynical viewpoint in film, which dominates most of this stuff, and doesn't make it bad, but I would prefer that we have more diverse ideas, is at the end of the day, man is small and he always loses. That's what you get out of almost all of this. And this movie gave us man is small and will suffer, but has the ability to overcome if he steps up.
Holy shit.
God,
That was deep.
oh man.
Now I'll get out.
Whoa. I think we have to get out after that.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, do you have anything else to add? I certainly can't.
I really enjoyed the movie. The symbolism is par none. Like it's just it's really very symbolic movie, very entertaining.
Right.
Some weak points, some lulls, but overall, really good horror movie.
Totally. I totally agree with that too. I'd like to actually watch it again and really, really look for all the symbolism. But yeah, this was definitely this was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
It was a nice watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we know what we have next, just to watch, or
Don't know, but this would be a good time for us to remind the listener that we're always looking for your suggestions. If you'd like to contact us on social media, if you want to just reach out to us, however, on Facebook or Twitter, whatever, we're going to be providing you guys with an email address. You can email us very, very soon. We would like to hear your suggestions. If there's a movie you have thoughts about or you were thinking about and you want us to just like go first in case it sucks, whatever. We're always open to suggestions and everything. And I think with that, probably go ahead and wrap up. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, let's sign off.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, once again, thank you for tuning into the Beacon House podcast. Tell your friends, give us a good rating, reach out to us on social media. We always love hearing from you guys. And this is Spencer McCoy,
Hunter Barnhart,
Casey Bishop,
and we will see you guys next time.
love you. Bye.
Aw, that's back when I thought I actually cared a little bit. That's cute.
I don't know. It didn't sound like you cared that much.
Oh my God,
Dude,
I can't believe we found that.
That is such an old episode. Like, I forgot that even was on the hard drive. That was like was that the first or second thing we ever?
Second.
The
The very first was Cloverfield.
So we need to go
And
find.
we filmed that right after the Super Bowl, like the Monday after the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
We did.
Yeah.
Shit. So we need to. I need to go find that Cloverfield episode.
Well, I think we actually did Cloverfield and Ritual in the same day.
We did those back to back.
The Ritual was recorded at like 2:00 in the morning because the band next door wouldn't stop playing.
Oh man, that's crazy. So. Holy crap! So we got
Wow.
another. So we've got another one of these to dig up for you guys about the Cloverfield paradox.
Which now looking back is not a good movie.
It's fun.
We'll see. But dude, thanks for joining us for a vault episode of Beacon House.
Yeah, if you made it to the end of that, we owe you a drink.
Yeah, that was really long. Really, really long.
I'll cough on you.
Back when we recorded that wouldn't have been funny.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, anyway, signing off for the second time in this episode, the Beacon House podcast. Since you already heard the music from the first one, we're going to give you some going out music right now.
God damn it.
You can overcome. You can overcome. You can chew some gum. You can have minted fresh breath brought to you by Orbit. Why don't you just go sit down on the couch, you dumb brr?
Do you think Molly Ringwald had a ringworm that gave her a rim job? Oh my.
No.